Hello, I'm recording in what is now dubbed as the land of the weak and home of the slave. It's obviously hyperbolic, it's a wordplay on the American axiom. If you just tell a random person to pair these two words, they wouldn't be able necessarily to put these two together. It's a very non-pairing sort of concept, but you put it in this sentence and you put it in the context of this great country which is America, and you come up with a saying like the land of the free and the home of the brave. I oftentimes catch myself, and it's a good philosophical exercise to sort of try to make the argument of the opposition. And I do often flirt with the idea that can the opposing side, maybe, just maybe, in a million years, under circumstances that's just right, be correct? And it's a very dangerous place to go to if you're starting to question your own judgment. I'm not one to believe that truth is relative. Truth is absolute, in my opinion, and it's not a very popular opinion these days. Nevertheless, America, greatest country in the history of mankind, and they will be first to tell you, the Americans, that because of our freedom and our rule of law and our protection of property rights and the rule of the individual over that of a government to look after its own family and look firstly after its own family and to protect its own property and to protect its own interests. All those collective efforts of all those individuals and families, it's basically a bottom-up approach where the foundation of a society is so strong on the family level and then extended family and then towns and communities, and the towns and communities form municipalities and states and so forth. And so we have this marvelous country, the juggernaut militarily and economically, probably 100 times bigger than the biggest thing that humanity could ever imagine over the whole span of history. Yes, that is the awesomeness of the United States. Then I oftentimes try to make the opposing view. When the settlers landed in this land that we now know as the USA, the United States, everything was in their favor. They basically won the lottery. There was an element of chance involved in that. The Industrial Revolution was just around the corner, right? It was just about to happen. There was an era of colonialism, there was an era of conquest and exploration in the world. And other nations basically sussed it out. They figured it out, what the pitfalls are and how to make better ships and how long sailors can survive. And then only did the Puritans that came from many nations, but it's chiefly from Britain, took to ships and they conquered the New World, which now became America. Now, America, they have very fertile soil. There is an abundance of land. There's an inexhaustible amount of coal, which is natural energy that was useful and usable during the time of conquest hundreds of years ago, but it still is very useful today to generate electricity. And energy is one of the prime ingredients to aggressively grow an economy, and one of the reasons America had unstoppable economic growth for centuries, at least two, was because of the abundance of coal. So technology had to do with it, the industrial technology, the railroads, the steam engines. In more recent days, electronics, the light bulb, if I'm not mistaken, was invented in America. The movie camera, internet, iPhone, GPS, those are all American inventions, and the Americans obviously had the first dibs in using these and to leverage these inventions to the best of their ability, right? People often say, yes, socialism does work in places like Sweden or the Norwegian countries. And if you think about it, they make a valid point, but also Sweden have fertile soil. They've got a very small population, so it's a very easily controllable population, and it's very easy to have socialism in such a place. The natural resources are bountiful in the Norwegian countries. It is a people that has a Western, and I dare couple that with a capitalist mindset. It has the benefit of capitalist insertion into the economy. Yes, they have technology, they have iPhones and internet, which is all capitalist things, unreasonably high taxes, and they've got a welfare system where you basically don't pay for anything in the lines of education and medicine. I believe they're also toying with guaranteed basic income. So is it true socialism in countries like Norway? True socialism has failed 100% of the time. I don't believe there's any juju, any invention, or any sort of technology at any stage that will sprinkle some magic on socialism that make it work. I can certainly not imagine such a positive black swan, to use Taleb's idiom, that would just magically one day let people's eyes open up and all the capitalists say, oh, we were wrong. Now that we have this magic app, socialism can now finally work and we'll have an utopia for all. I just don't see that the uncurable wickedness of man's heart will change to the point where that is at all possible. Oftentimes I'm thinking, I live in a socialist system and I'm a staunch capitalist. Is it sensible? Is it smart of me to now want to play tennis on a basketball court? Everyone else is playing basketball and I'm pitching up with a tennis racket and a tennis ball. Would it not be more prudent for it to be a case of, if you can't beat them, join them? Also, another thing that I often muse about is complexity. I've had doctors say to me, medical doctors say to me, the human body is just like a car. We nothing more than glorified car mechanics. And I would cringe at that, because I do not want a person operate on my flesh if he is of the contention that it is not a very complex system. There's biology, there's mechanics, there is biochemistry, there's psychosomatic elements to it. The body in the human and human personality in the systems that it's in is incredibly complex. Now, governmental systems and all of the things that works in on that is just as complex. I will concede, begrudgingly so, that in a different universe, 1,000,000 years from now, something that looks identical to socialism right now might actually work. Not right now, however. So I always claim to be practical. We should think about ways and methods of supporting our voices in the politics, not supporting them by necessarily money, but by cryptocurrency. I'm thinking about forming networks and exchanging information. So any thoughts on that, any links you want to share, you can just dump it all below and I'll be sure to read them. And for now, I'll say cheers.